Okay, so that's a classic signature lick. Some of you may recognize it, some of you may have forgotten it, some of you may never have heard it. It's the opening line for a song from 38 Special called Hold On Loosely. It was the tune that made the band famous. And I have a funny story that I heard secondhand. A friend of mine was working in a guitar store in Houston. Lovely town, Houston, if you like the wet. And his gentleman came in and said, hey, could you demo this particular amplifier for me? I'm thinking about it. I'm not sure, how to work it and stuff. And so my buddy, picked up the guitar and went. And right about there, the guy starts laughing. And my buddy Doc goes, what? You don't like that song or what? He says, well, actually, no, I wrote that song. I like that song very much. So it was one of the guys from 38 Special who came up with the lick. And he came in and Doc happened to play it. So needless to say, Doc did get the sale. But today I'd like to talk a little bit about speakers. And let me preface this with just a little bit, because I've been doing a lot of segments about tone, and I often forget to say the most important thing about what I'm telling you is you need to use it and try it and see if it works for you or not. Because you're the ultimate judge of what kind of sound your soul wants to hear. So I'm a big fan of little. Right now I'm using a Mesa 112 compact cabinet with a JBL K120, a vintage one that's been reconed. And I really like the sound because it's really clear and definite, and it lets me to color the tones from my amplifier as opposed to be limited by the tone of my speaker. But you may find that you like a 412 cabinet with vintage 25 greenbacks, Celestion speakers. Some of you may prefer to have the old Bassman 212 Jensen cabinet. That was a staple when I was growing up. Oh boy, if we could only get one of those cabinets, we'd sound great. Found out that the practice helped a lot more than the cabinet did. But there's a lot of different combinations: closed back, open back, three-quarter back. And all these things affect the sound. Right now I'm playing through one of my favorite Mesa cabinets. I call it a quarter stack because it's a 212 cabinet in a vertical array. It does a couple of different things because it has a slightly angled top speaker that points more at my head when I'm performing, and I can hear it better. Because it has a closed back, which I'm not going to turn it around as you can see, it's going to focus the energies in the lower frequency, give it a little bit more punch, and give it a little bit more directionality, which is nice because the sound goes out into the audience, not confusing the bass player on the other side of the stage. Not that my bass player is easily confused. I don't want him to think that. He's my friend. An open back cabinet is going to have a little bit more airy tonality to it. The speaker will have a little bit more travel because it doesn't have the back compression tightening up the sound, and has a different kind of tonality and feel to it. It also has the advantage or disadvantage that anybody who's behind you gets to hear you just as loud. I love it when I see a band set up and they put the guitar player's open back super reverb right in front of the bass drum microphone. Nothing will drive a sound man crazier faster than where's that guitar coming from as he's trying to get his kick drum tone. So you kind of have to watch open back cabinets for that reason. But it is useful when you're playing a deep stage where they don't have a lot of width and you've got to stand in front of the drummer to be able to have the drummer hear what you're doing or not hear. So cabinets speakers come in all kinds of sizes. 8-inch, not very popular, but a Fender Champ, that's what it had when it started out. 10-inch is pretty popular in the smaller amps. Another amplifier I like very much is the Fender Super Champ XD. I actually own that. It's the first tube amp I've owned in 30 years, and I enjoy it. Got a 10-inch speaker. I actually swapped the factory speaker out with a JBL because I like JBL speakers. It gave me 3 dB more volume, which would have required me to double the size of the amplifier. And it gave me a little bit more bottom end. But it's an open back cabinet. If I want to control the back, I've discovered a technique. I put it on a speaker stand and I take the cover off the amplifier and I put it over the speaker stand, and that kind of traps the back, but still lets it have some of that open back characteristic, and it keeps the sound focus out in the audience. lots of different cabinets for a long time. The big deal was to have the full stack. In the 60s and 70s, it was a Marshall, and as into the 80s and 90s, it became a rectifier, and you had 8 12-inch speakers just pounding the crap out of your ears in the audience, but that's what people wanted. And it's interesting to note that a lot of the bands today, when they go out and tour the Coliseum tours and the hockey rink tours, and they have those 6 Marshall stacks per guitar player up there, that if you were able to get a tour of the setup, you'd find out that they generally had a 212 amp under the stage that was close mic'd. That was their amplifier for sound. All the boxes on stage were empty because given the cost of fuel these days, you don't want to be hauling around a 125-pound cabinet when all you need is a 30-pound prop. So, yeah, I know I'm probably breaking people's hearts right now. They're not playing through 6 Marshall stacks? No, they're not. Because their doctor said if they did, they would not be able to hear anything in 2 years. So just something to keep in mind. A small amp mic'd will sound better, cleaner, tighter, will give you lower stage volume so you can play better together, and everybody will be happier. Some cats have used 15-inch speakers before, the old blues guys. They get a big 15-inch speaker because a lot of those cats were just the guitar and voice, and they needed that big thump to go. Because they were trying to get people to dance so they'd have fun and throw money in the hat. And it was cheaper to buy one big 15 than it was to buy 2 12s or 4 10s because you're only paying for one magnet. So you can get a lot of air movement out of a single 15. Stevie Ray did that for a while. He had an old Vibroverb, I think it was, that he had hot righted with a 15-inch speaker in it. He may have even put a JBL in. I don't know. I haven't studied his biography too closely because I play guitar more than I read. Anyway, just some thoughts about speakers. Bottom line is you need to go out and try a bunch. My other pet peeve, my little soapbox I like to get into is you can, and I'm glad you're here on the internet listening to me because I will tell you that what you really need to do is take what you learn on the internet and then go out, try it out. Go into your favorite music store like Guitar Showcase. We're happy to have you come in and we'll plug in 6 or 7 cabinets in our vintage room so we can lock the door and you can be loud and have fun and get a feel for what's going to work for you. Not just what some guy in Rhode Island who plays every 3 months for 3 minutes at a jam, but what you think happens. I'd be happy to advise you. I do play more than 3 minutes a month. I probably play about 15 to 20 hours a week. So I have some experience. I'm not the most experienced guy, but I've learned a few things. I'm more than happy to pass on my knowledge as long as you make the decision what works for you. My favorite line is people says, well, what guitar do you like? And I'll say, well, which one are you buying for me? You know, it's important what you like. Anyway, Jack Van Breen from Guitar Showcase in San Jose on Totally Guitars. Thanks.